Michael, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. What's it? Is there how big a transition is it for you to, I guess, go from assistant linebackers coach to being linebackers coach? Is there a big jump?
So my position, being that it's in the same building, it's a less of a jump if I were to have gone to another club, right? And so the fact that the players know me and I know the players, I know the scheme, those things all kind of align, and it's made this transition much smoother than what it would normally be if I had to go to a new club. There is a bunch of differences as far as now it's my decision on some of the things that we do in there and how we mostly how we teach, and that's what's exciting. And so I get to kind of slide back into that teacher role more than I was before, and that's what I thrive off of. I love that part of it, and so that's the biggest change, John. And man, it's been a lot of fun so far. I've enjoyed it.
So I guess you mentioned this. So does that translate to a more assertive voice, a more authoritative voice? I mean, do you feel like you have pretty much the same relationship with the players as before?
I think the relationship it was established before. It was just now I'm the one in front of them a little bit more, and Mike Nolan was really great about allowing me to be a part of that teaching process, and it was very much a partnership between him and I. The difference is who's leading it now, right? Now I'm in the lead, and Michael Wilhoit's my partner, and we're doing this thing together. So that's really the change. My voice won't change. I'm not a I don't think of myself as an authoritative person. You know what I mean? I see myself as a tool and as an educator, and that's how I approach it.
What are some of the challenges? Because obviously you get promoted to linebackers coach, and then pandemic hits, you can't be in the building. What have
Mhm.
some of the challenges been adjusting to that role without being able to do the things you traditionally would be able to do?
Well, first, I mean, you bring it up, and I think it's an excellent question because you would have never have thought, all right, you are an NFL linebacker coach. It's been something you've been shooting for, and then all of a sudden, your first meeting in front of the players is through one of these mediums, and it's like, what are we doing? So, anyways, so that's been a challenge. But Da has said it, Sean has said it. Man, everybody's got the same challenge, right? And so, um, it's been different. Yes, I wish I could see their eyes. I wish I could feel them a little bit more. I wish I could coach them on the field. But we're overcoming that just like everybody else is trying to overcome it. And from the very beginning, I sat down with these guys and I said, look, we're going to find a way. I sat down with Michael Wilhoit and I said, we got to find a way to be the best teachers in the NFL, right? Better than anybody else. And really both being young, both being eager, and both being around a little maybe more electronics than some of the other coaches we're competing against, we should have an advantage here. And so just like anything, right, you're just trying to find a winning edge. And I think that we've done that. And so that's what we've been spending our time this offseason doing.
Well, you kind of
When
touched
you
on
say
it.
you want to, when you say you want to feel them, I guess is that more so even with a guy like your rookie Zack Baun? Because I mean, at least Demario and Craig and Alex, they've been around the program. They understand what you're looking for. But Zack has not been into the program yet.
Sure, that definitely creates a different challenge for a guy that I haven't even shook his hand since the combine, right? And so, but at the same time, man, being in front of all those veterans and having their feedback and really even having the interaction amongst the whole group, there's so much value that comes from that, of those guys being in there. A guy like Zack feeling the presence of Demario, and when he has to answer a question and he feels Demario right there listening to him, and then there's feedback throughout the room. Those are things that we're missing, but we are getting some of that even through these calls. And so, yeah, to answer your question, yes, I wish I could be in front of Zack and get him out on the field and continue to train him. That time will come, but right now we just got to get creative in how we do that.
Has he, made any impressions on you from the virtual or the digital meetings you guys have had?
Absolutely. He is, and Mickey called me an hour or two ago, and we were talking about Zack, and he has been an outstanding pro. For him to approach what he's been doing the way he has, I mean, I just know we got the right guy. And that goes to our scouting department. They knew all that stuff. You talk about a makeup, this guy's makeup is outstanding. And then from an intelligence standpoint, man, he approaches it the right way. He invites being corrected. He's already asked me how we're going to schedule out the rest of the summer for meetings. And so, man, it has been a really impressive to see him really, and the rest of the young guys that we've met with primarily. We've got a group that is just really fun to work with and really easy to work with. And so I'm just excited about it as we get going closer to August.
Like, I know you don't want to reveal too much, but with his history as an edge rusher, I know we also saw reports of you guys pursuing Jamie Collins in the offseason. Are you envisioning more of an edge rushing outside linebacker role than we've seen in this defense, or you really think he could fit what we've seen you guys do with the Sam in the past, and I know even eventually Mike? Like, are you thinking of moving him to linebacker, or sort of changing what you do with that position?
So, you know, I think that there's a lot of ways I could answer that question. I think this, though, Mike, is AG kind of hit on it, right? These guys are positionless, and to bring in a guy who's really intelligent and who has position flex gives us a ton of freedom to do what we want to do. Once we get him in here, we have a vision for him, right? Every player I've talked to this offseason has been told, these are the two positions I want you to learn, right? And he's no different. So we're teaching him Sam and Mike right now, and we're going to make him learn those two positions. And then when we get to third down, that pass rush value, man, we're going to try to leverage the hell out of it. And so I think that, like we do with some of our safeties, and like we do with a couple of our positions, we're going to do everything we can to put these guys in the best position week to week. And that may be a different spot from game 1 to game 3, right? And so he's got his job of learning Sam and Mike. And then our third down package, he's got another role. So there's a lot on his plate as a rookie. But I do know that he has approached it in a way that's given me the confidence he's going to be able to handle it.
Mike, what was the scouting process like, and then just coming up with the vision for him, given that so much of his play was on the line, and there wasn't necessarily a huge sample of him playing in space?
Well, there was enough movement skills to say this guy could play a different position besides Sam linebacker. And I told Jeff very early in the process when we watched him, I see Sam Mike. Boom. Like, I wrote it down. It was the first note I wrote on him. And really that aligned with other people's vision as well. And it gave us the confidence to go get him where we got him. And Sean agrees with it. Sean sees him similar to the rest of the building. And so the movement skills that he showed when he was in space, Nick, and then also during the Senior Bowl, there were some things there that showed us, man, this guy's going to do it. And then you couple that, Nick, with all the makeup and the intelligence that we vetted. It gave us a ton of confidence to see him being a multi-position player that's going to have a long, successful career.
Mike, we've seen, a small sample size of Alex Anzalone when he's healthy, but how much of an impact player can he be healthy and doing the things that you guys know he can do?
Man, we got to – all you guys, y'all follow this and y'all are on it as good as anybody. And we got a really good taste of that a couple of years ago, right? And going into last season, he was playing really well. Alex is one of my favorite – so Alex was the very first interview I ever had at the Combine, right? I'm in the NFL. I'm not supposed to be doing interviews yet. We were slammed. All of a sudden, I'm with Alex, all right? And I'm learning that how to say his last name. So look, there was a personal connection there early. And then he gets in here and you evaluate him and you see how he works and you see his ability. And there's a potential that he hasn't even come close to reaching, which is exciting. But I'm confident that he's going to be better than he's ever been. And look, his health is what it is. There's no secret there, right? And we know that, and he knows that. But I do know this: he looks outstanding right now. Just the videos that I've seen and the conversations that I've had, he looks outstanding, and he tells me how good he feels. Right? And so I think he's going to come in here, and I think now, I just said this earlier today to somebody else. I think to my core, and I hope, and look, I might be wrong, but I think he's over a hump now where he's going to be able to extend his career to that 8-10 year career that he should have. Hopefully staying on the field healthy.
Mike, what can a guy like DeMario do to get even better? I mean, what else can he do?
So it's funny you ask, because so we do these plan of attacks, and we dive into what they can do better. And but not only that, not only identifying a problem, but then also identifying the solution. DA kind of charges us with that responsibility after the season. And I did all these before Will Hoyt was kind of hired as the assistant, and I sent him to him to look over, and he's like, why are there more on DeMario than anybody else? Well, you really look at it, there's so much film to study on him, right? And he's such a intentional learner. I mean, this guy takes an approach to it as good as anybody I've ever seen. The only other person I've seen approach it differently from my short career is Drew, and that's from afar, right? So Drew's on another level, I think. But what he does is some really special things. And so, man, there's some things in coverage, there's some things in pass rush, there's some things in run fits that if I can get him just a little bit better at those things, well, all of a sudden, you know, he's a perennial all-pro player. And it's not because of what I do, it's because he's using me as a tool, right? And he's using me as another resource to continue to get better. And so there's just always room for improvement. And I've never been around a guy, I never imagined being around a guy who's an all-pro player, had the season he had last year, and he calls me and he says, what can I do better? He calls me during the bye week and he says, what can I do better, right? And so that's really why I see that there's more upside for him. And I do think that we're going to see even a better player than we saw last year.
There are, it's not just Alex in your room coming off of injuries. I mean, you've got Kiko and Caden, and I mean, the list goes on. How is, in the meetings that you've had with them, how has this offseason benefited those guys who are coming off of serious injuries, or even just guys who've got tweaks?
Well, I think you're asking is how we're taking advantage of the meeting time and the virtual meetings. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, and just like those guys are getting extra rest and all that stuff, but they're still learning. They're still involved. Yeah.
So Sean does a great job. Coach Payton does a great job with taking care of our veterans. And look, I hate what we're in, but I think in the situation that we're in right now, but I do think that there's a lot of positives that are going to come out of it. And one of those is giving these guys time to heal. And again, this is such a veteran group who approaches the game in such a professional manner that I think that although we're not on the field, which is invaluable, I don't want to discredit how much we miss that. I do know that these guys are ball junkies, and they are finding a way to use the tools that we've provided for them to still look for that winning edge. And so there's been a lot of good feedback in these in the dialogue through these Zoom meetings, and the fact that we're able to find time to watch film together. And quite honestly, I'm able to jump into a few more tools and teach tapes than I think I would have been if we were having to deal with practice. And so I've really been able to focus on different ways to teach them rather than having to prepare what we're going to do for individual. You know what I mean? So like there's been some good that's come out of this.
Kind of following up on that, you mentioned, looking at things to teach them. How creative have you had to get, for these meetings, knowing that, all right, I won't be putting them through drills for a while, but, finding ways to get them their own workouts and, improve? So
I have found this extremely exciting. Like I love it. I love this challenge. I really have embraced it, and Michael Wilhoit has been an unbelievable partner with this as we work on these things together. What we've done is spent a lot of time really defining what we do. Just like DA mentioned about how we've kind of gone through the playbook and focused on what we're not necessarily, I'm sorry, let me correct what I'm saying there is not what we're doing, but how we're doing it. And so what I've been able to do is really spend some time honing in on the words we use, how we verbalize it, because without me out there showing them, I'm misleading them. And so right now I've had to really focus on the language that we use and putting it down on a piece of paper. It's something I'm going to be able to hang on to for a long time, but it's also something that they can reference back at Saturday night at 10:30, and Zach doesn't have anything else to do. So he pulls up an old teach tape, and there's verbiage on there that explains what we're doing. All of a sudden he's getting a lesson that he wouldn't have gotten before, because maybe I wouldn't have had the reason to do it.
Michael's family just welcomed a brand new baby last week, so I don't know if anybody wants to ask him about how his life has changed again in the last week or so, but it was great perspective when I talked to him earlier. Or
Let's hear about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah. Look, we have a 2-year-old daughter. So this pandemic has been wild for us. Okay. It's wild for everybody. People are losing their lives over this stuff. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But when I hear from people, I was talking to Doug about it. Like, there's a lot of people that are going to come out of this and feel well rested and tell you how they can play the guitar now and all these different things. Look, there has been no idle time in the Hodges household. We have potty trained a 2-year-old. We have bought and moved into a new home. And we have, I say we, my wife had a child. And so, in fact, I gave her a hug before I came up, and she kind of gave me a sniff on my shoulder, and she goes, I think you have throw up on your shoulder. So like, that's what I'm dealing with in between meetings. But it's all part of it, man. Fatherhood is truly the best thing that I've ever experienced.
Like, does that make you sort of appreciate this pandemic a little more, though? Just getting to spend that kind of time with your family?
Oh my gosh, I'm down for lunch every day. I get to go down for lunch every day. Now, I will say this, I have to hide in the room, because if my daughter knows I'm here, it's game over. So it's act like daddy's at work, and then all of a sudden I come home for lunch, right? So that's been excellent. I'm there as soon as I'm done in the afternoon. So those have all been good things, but it's not all roses either. Man, there's some challenges now of being home and balancing the fact that I'm home, but it's not vacation, right? And so it's harder for everybody in the building or in the room. So anyways, we've been balancing it really well. My wife is absolute rock star when it comes to being my supporter and my partner, and then also just raising these kids. So man, I just value everything that we've been doing together and building this family, and just excited that we're able to kind of set some roots down now that we're at in this linebacker room.
Mike, with the positionless football that you guys are talking about, do you ever do any work with any of the DBs? Is Chauncey or PJ, is there any crossover there where they come into your purview a little bit?
No, not in the sense that they're in my room, right? We're not there yet, but I will say this: there's been conversations with AG and Ryan Nielsen where there's so much involvement in the room for us to be up front with those guys, and then there's involvement in the back end. And so what we'll do going forward, and I think I'm really excited about it, is we're going to make sure that we carve out time throughout the season, particularly in camp, and then when it suits us for specific components, but we're going to work with the other groups more often, right? Because there's never a time when we're not communicating with somebody up front or communicating with somebody in the back end. And if we can get a little bit better there and them have an understanding of what we're trying to do and vice versa, we're going to be in better shape. So there's going to be a little more crossover, but it's going to be joint coaching as opposed to the player moving into another room to learn a different position.
Do you have you found the staff having any interesting conversations about how this may affect your approach to work in the off season in the future, and how effective you can be while still maybe maximizing more time with children or family and things like that?
There has been some ideas kind of thrown around. I don't know how much of them are jokes. Like, all right, man, no more staff meetings unless we're at the house. But I don't know to what extent, but I do believe that we're entering a new kind of a new era of how we're going to do certain things. I think that this is a tool that's going to allow us to do a lot of things. A big one that I pulled away was I've been able to meet with different coaches across the country through this medium, as opposed to when you get any professional development in the past, you normally jump on a plane and go spend 2 days with them. Well, now I spend half a day over the phone with them, and then I go down for lunch, right? And so there's been a lot of merit to growing in that sense, and there's definitely, I think, some meeting time that's going to be stolen away from the office and allowing us to do things at home. So I do think we're going to go in that direction to some degree. To what degree, I don't know, but I know that the personal face-to-face stuff is invaluable, and you definitely don't want to lose that. It's just a matter of how much of it do we need.
Thanks for your time, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Take care.